So the South African Human Rights Commission will today begin its week-long inquiry into racial discrimination in the advertising industry. The hearings are sparked by the Clicks advert in 2020, which described black women's natural hair as, quote, dry and damaged. Our senior reporter, Malungelo Booi, joins us in studio ahead of those hearings set to unfold in Rosebank. Malu, a very good morning to you. It's interesting that these hearings are taking place on the back of the court dismissing a claim by a group of women in terms of this Clicks advert.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. Remember, this was in 2020, Michelle, and this advert, in fact, there was so much outcry, and a lot of people found it to be profoundly insensitive and also racist. And remember, the Human Rights Commission got involved, the economic freedom fighters, in fact, led several protests in some of the Clicks stores nationwide. And remember, attending one of the protests here in Sandton, where Clicks, where in fact EFF supporters were actually protesting and closing their actual store. And one of the things that EFF had said at the time, that this in fact was in violation of black women's rights, and it was demeaning. And also the South African government came out and also, slamming the advert, but also they slammed the destruction that was caused by the EFF protest at Clicks stores.
So we're talking about Clicks stores this morning, but the advert concerned was about a brand on the shelves of Clicks stores. It was a Tresemme ad.
It was a Tresemme advert, and remember, shortly after that outcry, Clicks pulled out all Tresemme products, and there were also calls on other South African stores to do the same. But what the Human Rights Commission is trying to do, this is what they're saying, they're trying to prevent tone-deaf, this is what they're saying, trying to prevent tone-deaf adverts from taking place again in this country. But also, Michelle, today then we'll hear three witnesses at least giving evidence, and one of those witnesses is Ms. Patel. I'm sure.
Zuleika
Patel, exactly. You remember her, I think it was in 2017 or 2018, where she was involved in a protest at her school, also in Pretoria, also about hair. But when you're talking hair, Michelle, in South Africa, there's context and there's history, and that's why there was so much anger and outcry over that particular advert.
So who takes part in these hearings today, Malungelo?
So we'll see.
Aside from Zuleika Patel.
Sure. There's an academic from Wits University, but also the EFF, Dr. Ndlozi, will also be taking part in these hearings. It's a week-long hearings that will be taking place. So we'll sort of, I also suspect, Michelle, that we'll also hear a lot from industry players in the advertising industry, helping, explaining to the Human Rights Commission how actually the process into making ads, and how do they actually even select the faces who we see on our adverts.
And when there are multinational companies involved, as was the case with Tresemme, how do we regulate that kind of industry?
Exactly. It's actually going to be interesting. But also, for me, when you look at this story, Clicks at the time, Michelle had said that, some of the employees, there was a senior executive that had resigned who apparently was involved in this. And they had said also that they were going to they would have disciplinary proceedings against other members of the team or the company that had been involved in this. The question is whether did that happen besides that resignation of that senior executive.
Our senior reporter, Malungelo Booi, thanks very much indeed for coming into studio. Important conversations set to unfold in Rosebank in Johannesburg today. The Human Rights Commission holding those week-long hearings. It's a week-long inquiry, I should say, into racial discrimination in the advertising industry.